Nigeria is one of the great nations of Africa, oil-rich, teeming with wildlife, and home to diverse peoples and cultures. Nigeria was just a must-do on our list of countries. So without further ado, we bring you the 10 things you didn't know about Nigeria. Nigeria is one of the top oil producers in the world, ranking number 11 worldwide and number 1 in Africa. Nigeria's oil economy is so important that many have speculated that should the Middle East become too unstable, the United States might need to turn to Nigeria as a principal exporter. One of the consequences of these large oil reserves has been the continued presence of corporate corruption and greed, which eventually led to the creation of MEND, or the Movement for the Emancipation of the Niger Delta. Unlike many insurgent groups, the issues of MEND sound pretty legitimate. Corrupt oil companies have continually polluted the Niger Delta, destroying the environment, ruining farming, and making life for the locals unbearable, and in retaliation, MEND have decided to strike back. They routinely engage in sabotage, kidnappings, theft, property destruction, and guerrilla warfare, but only rarely kill. They will often assault oil platforms in the Niger Delta in high-speed motorboats and overwhelm privately trained military guards employed by corporations such as Shell, often kidnapping and ransoming oil workers for hefty sums, as well as bomb oil pipelines. These operations often cause an international increase in the cost of oil. It's safe to say that until the Niger Delta is returned to its former pristine state, MEND will be here to stay and continue on in their campaign as rebels with a cause. Given Nigeria's tropical location, it shouldn't surprise anyone that Nigerian food is vibrant, tasty, and colorful. Most Nigerian dishes are starch and vegetable heavy and undeniably delicious. Nigeria is one of the top yam producers in the world, and its food reflects this. The classic bean pottage mixed up with spices and plantains makes for an amazing meal. Deep-fried battered yams are another classic, dipped in akara and spiced up with chili sauce. They make for an amazing midday snack. Ogbono soup is made from ground-up African mango and filled with yams and plantains, and is yet another Nigerian classic. If you like it thick and filling, then Nigerian food is for you. You might not know that Nigeria's best export is nothing less than success itself. Educated Nigerian immigrants are among the most successful people in places such as the United States, often surpassing Americans of East Asian ethnicity in mean income and achievement. No one really knows the secrets of their success, but what we do know is that they are the most educated people in the United States. Some people think that allowing skilled and educated Nigerian immigrants to become citizens creates a brain drain on their native country. But the flip side of that is that Western countries tend to have many more opportunities, allowing them greater mobility, success, and ultimately the ability to help people in their country of origin. The Nigerian Civil War is also called the Biafran War, which lasted from July of 1967 to January of 1970, so called because the politics that had led to it involved the failed attempt of the secessionist state Biafra to secede from Greater Nigeria. Nigeria is an incredibly diverse place, and one of the reasons why the war started was because of tribal and economic tensions between the Igbo and the tribes such as the Hausa and Yoruba. Unfortunately for the Igbo secessionists, the Nigerian government wasn't having it, so the government set up blockades throughout the borders of the region, which effectively whittled down the Biafran forces to the point of surrender. By the end of it, close to 3 million Biafran citizens had died from a combination of starvation and fighting. It's not much talked about in the West, but the Nigerian Civil War's death toll beats out most other wars of the time, and was fought with a brutality most Europeans can't even imagine, with torture, cannibalism, rape, and worse, all being par for the course. One of the most interesting crime prevention measures practiced throughout Africa, including South Africa, but especially in Nigeria, is necklacing. The practice is so common that it even warrants its own Wikipedia article. Necklacing is a form of execution and torture used as a deterrent to people thinking about committing theft or crime. The practice typically involves removing the victim's clothes, beating him, putting him in a tire, whereupon he is subsequently lit on fire and burnt alive. Thought to prevent crime by striking fear into the hearts of criminals, necklacing doesn't really have the intended effect, and most Westerners struggle to understand this bizarre practice. Cannibalism is a tradition found in many parts of the world, and Nigeria is no exception. Sometimes cannibalism occurs due to wartime conditions, such as those during the Biafran War, but other times it is a deeply ingrained part of the culture. An account from the 1920s from a Christian missionary explains the practice in greater detail. Quote, "Every moment, men, women, and even children passed me. One would be carrying a human leg on his shoulder. Another would be carrying the lungs or the heart of some unfortunate crewboy in his or her hands. Several times, I myself was offered my choice of these morsels, dripping with gore." End quote. More recently, a restaurant in a hotel in Nigeria was discovered to have been serving roasted human heads. Cannibalism is often practiced because eating the flesh of others, especially of your enemies, is thought to grant you magic powers. However, the darker side of it is often that people sometimes just taste good to other people. Tribalism is a divisive factor across the globe, but in Nigeria, it is a greater factor than in most places. People tend to think of Africa as monolithic and the same everywhere, but this is far from the truth, and Nigeria typifies this in many ways. Nigeria has close to 180 million people and is the most populous African nation. However, these numbers are further broken down into tribes. The major tribes are the Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, along with dozens and dozens and dozens of smaller tribes. This doesn't seem to be a problem on its face, but remember that the Biafran War was fought for tribal reasons, and most of these tribes distrust and even despise each other to this day. Violence between them is not uncommon, and political leaders from differing tribes are viewed with suspicion. This might be one of Nigeria's greatest challenges going forward, since Nigerian national identity is more a forced circumstance than a reality. Only time will tell. One of the most fascinating characters in modern Nigerian politics is President Muhammadu Buhari. He's definitely not your run-of-the-mill politician. A former military leader that in the 1980s briefly ruled Nigeria after a successful military coup d'etat, he now refers to himself as a quote-unquote converted Democrat. In fact, there is even a political term called Buharism that refers to the type of military political ideology carried out under the then General Muhammadu Buhari in the 1980s, which was little different from most forms of fascism. Rampant ethnic nepotism, corporatism, and the suppression of personal freedoms were the name of the game. Of course, he's turned over a new leaf now and has been elected several times in a democratic process, but this hasn't changed people's views of him, and there have been several failed assassination attempts on his life. To add to this, he is a member of the Hausa tribe, which engenders distrust and dislike in the Yoruba and Igbo people in the country. Vacillating between a man of the people, an elected official, a dictator, or just your typical corrupt politician, Muhammadu is a larger-than-life figure to say the least, and just about beats anything America has to offer in the realm of politics. Believe it or not, Nigeria is home to the largest and most diverse numbers of butterfly species in the world. Nigeria is so well known for this that one of the country's national stamps has a butterfly prominently displayed on it. One way of seeing them is to visit Cross River National Park, which is home to at least 300 species of different butterflies. Even today, new butterfly species are being discovered, showing the enormous biodiversity Nigeria has to offer. Nollywood. No, that's not a made-up word, but a description of Nigeria's film industry, which is the second largest in the world. Every year, over 100 films are released covering a wide range of genres. Despite the vast output, Nigerian cinema is largely divided along ethnic and religious lines, as befits the incredibly diverse population. For this reason, within the greater film industry, there are distinct film industries dedicated to representing the tribe the film producers come from, such as Hausa or Yoruba. And then there is the English film industry, which combines many different aspects from differing Nigerian tribes and cultures. For all these reasons, Nollywood films tend to stay national rather than international, but nonetheless remain an important aspect of Nigerian culture and heritage. For more top lists just like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to check out our other lists. And thanks for watching, and thanks for learning.